Folks, welcome back to the channel. Doug with Stacking Investments here. Today's video is going to be my thoughts on the sweet spot for buying a coin for your collection. This does not apply to everybody. Everybody's budget is different. Some people can afford more expensive things. Other people are on really tight budgets and can only afford lower grade coins. I personally don't care what grade the coin is. I enjoy a collection of really low grade coins just as much as I do a high-end collection. While a high-end collection is impressive, I think completing a set, no matter what the coin is, or filling a spot in an album on your way to completing that set. I don't care if the date's barely visible or whatever. The fact that you filled a spot on your particular budget, hey, that's great. I'm just as impressed with that as I am, somebody getting an MS-68 to finish off an MS-68 collection. So that's where I stand. Before I get into the topic of the sweet spot for the coin I think would be best, let's throw out a disclaimer. My videos, I do absolutely no editing other than a simple pause when I have to get my loop, or I forgot to bring my handy dandy letter opener, or whatever else is I forgot, or I need to, because whatever happened, my video shows vertical and I want to turn it horizontal. Outside of that, I do no editing. This is actually take 2. I didn't like the way the first video came out, so I just deleted it and I'm starting over. My videos are all about my personal additions to my stack and my personal coin collection. It's more for documentation, and I appreciate everybody that follows along. Hopefully I give you some ideas, and I like reading your comments because it gives me ideas. And one more thing before I get started in the topic, I don't care if your channel is 1 subscriber or if you've got 1 million subscribers within the coin community. I think we can all agree that the general consensus across the board is buy the best coin you can afford on your budget for your collection. Nobody disputes that. What I want to get into is to refine that just a little bit and show you what I think the sweet spot is. Now, I'm going to use, and this is just for reference, the official Red Book from 2020. You feel free to use whatever price guide, whether you use an older version, a newer version. The 2024 is out. If you go by Gray Sheet, if you go by PCGS's price guide, NGC, CoinFacts, I don't care. The principle I'm going to talk about applies. Me using the Red Book is just to get my point across and show you what I'm talking about, and then you can apply the principle to whatever price guide or value guide you choose to look at. I have 2 examples I'm going to show you, and the first example is going to be in the Morgan Dollar section, and we're going to turn to the page that has the 1895-0 because it is a perfect example. The 1895-0 is a semi-key date. Some would consider it a key date, but some of the keys are based on, some of them turn into key dates as far as the conditional rarity. But if you are somebody who money is no object and you're able to afford an MS-65, by all means buy the MS-65. This video probably doesn't apply to you. It applies I'm putting this out for the other 95% of us everyday run-of-the-mill coin collectors that are adding coins to our collection. Now, 1895 had a mintage of 450,000. And also keep in mind that the Red Book does not show all the categories for all the grades. They do skip some grades. They go from very fine 20 to extra fine 40 to AU 50. They skip a couple, go straight to MS 60. They skip a couple more, go to 63, MS 64, MS 65. What I want to point out, and you'll have to, when you look at other price guides that show the grades that aren't shown in here, you can make adjustments to what I'm talking about, but I'm just, like I said, using this as an example so that you can apply it to other price guides. The sweet spot would be the grade just before the first big jump in price going to a higher grade. So in this example, and again, this is example only, when you get the AU 53 and AU 58 in between, they don't have them here, so you have to refine it a little bit for in there. But in this example, we start out at 350, go to 500, and we go to 1100, and then here is our first major big jump going to an MS60. It jumps 16 times to $16,000 for MS60. Now, if you're looking for this coin and your budget allows for 16,000, by all means, that is, that's the coin you want. We all want that coin, but let's be real. Not every collector has a budget that high. Matter of fact, 95% of us don't. This is where the sweet spot comes in. The sweet spot would be AU 50 for $1,100. The reason that would be, and just again, this is just example because you got split grades, so this might be refined a little more with those split grades, but just on the information, just giving you the basics here of what to look for. The big jump is from AU 50 to MS 60. So sweet spot would be the AU 50. The reason I say that is because if you go straight up to MS 60 at 16,000, if you can afford that, hey, great, kudos to you. But herein lies the problem. When you go to sell, you're going to have, while everybody's going to be oohing and ahhing over that high grade coin, there's a limit to there's a limit to how many people have their eyes set to buy a coin that hot, in that price range. When you back it back down to the AU 50 for $1,100, you attract a whole lot more, a significant set of eyes on that coin that want that coin and are willing to purchase it. Now, maybe your budget, I'm not knocking, I'm not slamming. Like I said, I have a lot of low-grade coins myself, but, 1895 is not an easy coin to find in the first place. But even if, there's some collectors out there that even VF20 for $350 is just totally out of their range. Again, this is not telling you if you can only budget $350 and that's all you can afford, by all means, that's where you need to stay. The philosophy still holds true of buy the best coin you, with your budget, can afford. That's rule number one. But if you're looking for that overall sweet spot, and this is, again, my personal opinion, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just pointing out something that I think is kind of overlooked in the community. And while we all want high-grade coin, it's just not financially possible for a lot of collectors. But if you back it down to where I consider the sweet spot being the AU50 version. And I know the prices are wrong, so prices have changed and they've went up since this book. This is just for reference, just for example purposes. But if you had that coin AU50 at $1,100 and you go to sell, you're going to have more eyes and more people, more potential buyers of your coin at $1,100 than you will at $16,000. Now, well, MS60 version, everybody's going to be oohing and ahhing. You don't have as many buyers, available buyers. You have more buyers at this grade and this price range. You'll probably have even more if you step down to a EF40 in the long run. That might be your sweet spot. The sweet spot's going to depend on your budget, because you buy the best coin you can afford on your budget. But overall, if you're trying to put a really nice collection together, the true value play to have the best potential down the road if you want to sell is going to be that AU50 versus an MS60. And again, I'll say it, I know I've said it a couple times. If you can afford the MS60 or you got $195,000 to spend on MS65, by all means, if that's your budget, by all means. Just realize when you go to sell, there's going to be less people looking for that. It's going to take you longer to sell that coin if you have to than it will this. And I think the bigger price increase is going to happen because so many the majority of everyday coin collectors, their budget's down here on the lower end for this coin. It might be higher, it might be higher for some of the less common coins. Let's go, what is that, 98S, that sweet spot, your big jump happens from MS64 to MS65. So MS64 might be the, I think just going by these prices, the MS64 is going to be the sweet spot before it goes to 1,500. It just depends on your budget and what your goals are. Even though that's not a little over double the price to go up one grade. And then we don't have 66 and 67 prices either to see if there's any other jump. But, when you look at some of the values, you can get a higher grade. But when we're talking a semi-key date, and in higher grades, a key date, and that's the 95.0 is a condition rarity key date. That's why the price jumps so high. So it's actually priced higher in MS65 than the 94 Philly, which only had 110,000 minted, and your MS65 is lower, and that's because there's more in high grade of the 94 than there is in high grade of the 95.0. So, but I just want to point out, to me, my personal belief is the sweet spot for that coin. If I was really wanting to put a good working on my collection for the price, if I upgrade my 95.0, I would probably target an AU50. Possibly, if I see the pricing on the, AU53, AU55, and the AU58, depending on where those prices are sitting, my sweet spot might jump just a little bit to maybe a AU55. It just depends on what the pricing is. But just for example, again, I'm just using this as an example. Let's go one more coin, different denomination, because I want to show this. This can apply to any coin you're collecting, and I want to go to stacker and collector favorite, and that's the Walking Liberty $50. And let's take a look at one of the key dates here. If you're putting this set together, or you're buying a coin, we're going to use the 1921S with the 548,000 mintage. You got G4, but you're missing some. I want to point out you're missing some grades in between here. Going up. To me, the sweet spot is going to be the very fine 20 for 800 versus the extra fine 40 at 4,500. I think if you're putting a collection together and you want to have a really nice example and you're looking for that sweet spot, I think your very fine 20. That may change if I've seen the prices for the grades they don't show, but just going by the information here, and again, this is just an example, so you can apply this to any price guide you're looking at. For me, the sweet spot, the one that will, if I go to the grade and price that will give me a really nice looking coin, but when I go to sell, I will have a bigger audience and a bigger buyer pool to buy that coin off of me. The very fine 20 is going to be that sweet spot. Granted, there's people out there that got the budget for 4,500 on up. Kudos to them. That's buy the best coin you can afford. If you can afford the higher grades, by all means. But for the rest of the collectors out there, I truly think, this applies to any year, any denomination. The true sweet spot for a 1921S Walking Liberty $50 would be your very fine 20 at the $800 price point. Now, granted, prices are up on this, and because this is a 2020, and these prices aren't accurate either, so you got to go by a better price guide. Again, I'm just using this as an example to get my point across on my thoughts on this. But again, the sweet spot would be that very fine 20. I might even apply that to the 21D at 850 versus 2,900. I would probably step back, but here again, we're missing a few grades in between. So I may move if I saw the prices but that are missing between these two grades. If I saw those prices, I may step up, or I may say, oh, I need to stick right here. This is the true sweet spot. But here again, just using this as an example, because you see it goes 40, 80, 250, then you got a big jump to 800, but then you get the bigger jump to 4,500. So I would back down a grade, and for me, the sweet spot, if I was truly wanted a really nice coin for the best value, I think that sweet spot is a very fine 20. Real quick, we can skim down the page here and look for something else. All right, let's go with the 34S. Granted, there's not a big... We've got a doubling of price going from MS60 to MS63. Yeah. In this case, it's kind of a toss-up, but if you're on a tight budget, that sweet spot is going to be that MS60 at 365 versus the 63 at 750. Granted, we're missing 61, 62 grade, but going by the information, and I'm just using it for example, I think the 365 is the sweet spot value play. You'll have more people that can afford the MS60 version than you will the MS63. We back up to let me see here. These lower prices, for the more common coins, you know, it's hard to say. Now, like here, MS60 versus MS63, now you definitely, I mean, it's such a small jump. You know, you want to put the extra $40 out and definitely go up to a 63. But I'm talking more the sweet spot comes into play when you're talking your key dates, your semi-keys, your better dates. The sweet spot is the grade just before a major price jump going to the next grade. So anyways, I hope this helps you out and get an understanding of where I think the sweet spot is for buying a coin for your collection. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you on another one.